Morning everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Gamer Update. Yes, I'm not Jake, it's the long lost brother Hunter, finally back on the channel in the home setup. Jake is at a wedding this weekend, so I'm taking over because he chose the best weekend to go out of town, apparently, because we have the FaZe Clan merger finally happening, guys. This has been known for a while, at least on our end. We didn't want to spoil anything. We didn't want to be the guys to ruin a deal, so we did keep our lips sealed, but let's talk about it. It is FaZe Clan merger finally happening between GameSquare, that is the parent company of Complexity, and FaZe. GameSquare announced it this morning, saying the acquisition of FaZe Clan brings together two complementary businesses to create one of the world's leading content, media, and entertainment companies focused on gaming, esports, and youth culture. Combined, FaZe Clan and GameSquare generated annual revenue of approximately $138 million and achieved a 26.3% gross margin in 2022. Now, there's a lot of information for me to dive into in this press release, including some real juicy details, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time here. I really just want to jump into it. In this first section, the one that I really want to focus on here is actually at the bottom, where we can see the transaction is expected to close in the fourth quarter of 2023, which is right now. It is the fourth quarter of 2023, which means it's supposed to end and close by this year. Press release also says that FaZe Banks will be the CEO of FaZe Clan, which will operate as a wholly owned subsidiary and independent division of GameSquare. FaZe Temperrr is going to be the president of FaZe Clan, and FaZe Apex is going to be the COO of FaZe Clan. The focus is going to be refreshing the FaZe Clan brand, re-engaging with its core fan base, and empowering individual FaZe Clan creators and their communities. That part is one of the most interesting parts to me, because I'm just curious how this is all going to play out. Of course, it seems like, hey, if the OGs are back in power at this point, then they should be able to do things how they want to. It says that it is operated on its own as its own subsidiary. So these three at the top don't really have any excuse not to be successful in this and not to have at least a fair chance at running FaZe Clan how they want to once again. However, you could always say, well, it's still owned by GameSquare. There's still a lot of this corporate stuff. I mean, FaZe Rain has said not to be excited for what's to come at this point. So there's mixed messages here, where I'm hoping it's not a situation where, hey, these OGs are in power, but they're not really in power. It's more so just figureheads that can't actually make decisions for FaZe. Not to mention, people like Banks haven't been involved for quite a long time. I mean, he's been doing his own thing for a while, really just tweeting about Web3, obviously like NFTs, stuff like that, the monkeys, the apes, whatever they were. He's really been into that. So he hasn't been on the FaZe side of things for a while, it feels like, and really hasn't been a part of the brand for quite a long time. So I am curious how that's going to play out now that it's saying, hey, he's back at the forefront. He's the CEO of the company. I personally, maybe I'm a little cynical, I just hope that he's not going to lead it into a direction that says, okay, we're going to invest into this Web3, invest into this, NFT stuff, because I just feel like that's the wrong direction for FaZe right now, especially with Modern Warfare 3 launching how it has, with Rust, with sniping, with all this stuff back. It feels like the perfect time. I mean, they could put out montages again, right? Again, looking at that same screenshot, one more point I want to focus on is it says Talent Network includes leading gaming, sports, and entertainment personalities such as Ninja, Tim the Tatman, Max Holloway, Trevon Diggs, FaZe Banks, FaZe Temperrr, FaZe Apex, FaZe Nick Merckx, Rug, Swag, and more. And when you start to think about it like that, combining GameSquare, Complexity, and FaZe Clan's assets as talent, it starts to get really crazy. I mean, just seeing the word, like the fact that Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman, and Ninja are all technically under the same roof at this point is insane. We did have a couple quotes in here, one from Banks himself saying, "I'm confident with Tommy, Apex, and me back in charge of the brand, FaZe Clan will get back to where it was in its peak years," stated FaZe Banks. "We grew up on the internet and understand this brand better than anyone ever could. We're grateful to have found a partner in GameSquare who sees that value in us and can help us execute our vision. We're going to produce first, talk later." If you're like me, you're probably wondering, how does this work, considering FaZe Clan was a public company and people were buying stocks, buying shares of it. So what happens to these shares at this point? Now, Jake and I aren't the smartest people, so I'm really just learning from this press release. And so I'm going to read it and let you decide, because I think I understand it, but I could be wrong. So let me know if I am. So it says at the time of the merger, whenever it happens, Each issued and outstanding share of FaZe Clan common stock will be converted into the right to receive 0.13091 shares of GameSquare's common stock. As of July 31st, 2023, FaZe Clan has 76 million issued and outstanding shares of common stock and 11.5 million shares reserved for issuance pursuant to FaZe Clan's outstanding stock options. Which is interesting when you start to think about, okay, one FaZe Clan stock is only worth 0.13 of a GameSquare stock. Another interesting point here when you look into this is that upon completion of the transaction, current GameSquare shareholders will own approximately 55% of combined company, while FaZe Clan shareholders will own approximately 45%. Which actually, when you start to think about it, if a share of FaZe was only worth 0.13 of a GameSquare share, then that's a pretty good deal when they're almost 50-50 in this case of who owns FaZe Clan at this point. Last but not least, we do have one more thing that was reported in this, which was for the year ended in December 31st, 2022. This is FaZe Clan's losses at 168 million, which it does have a note saying 115 million of 2022 loss were non-operational one-time transaction costs. I don't know what that means, what $115 million of one-time costs could possibly be, just one-time transactional costs making up that $168 million. But it seems like it was operating at a severe loss in that case. And so I'm curious how GameSquare is going to be able to rectify it. I assume there's going to be a lot of changes, obviously, in the company that's going to trickle down. None of this mentions Atlanta FaZe because it is not under FaZe technically, but I'm curious to see how this plays out. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one.